you
Oh,
work
there
on
we go.
orders first?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Senior Estate Concierge Central Chapter. We'll introduce you to Stephen King, co-leader of this group.
Good morning. Glad to see everybody here today.
You guys got it?
Oh, time out. That's all right. Anyway, Senior State Concierge Group, we meet every month, the second Tuesday here at Brookdale on Shadowlake. And we're always glad to have everyone show up. We always invite guests. If you know someone, please invite them. We need to expand and be able to offer more resources to seniors. One pushes. There we go. So, the Senior State Concierge, I don't have my glasses on, I'll have to read this one. Our mission is to bridge the gaps in the senior services industry and provide trusted, professional, caring, and connected resource solutions. Education to seniors and families navigating those challenges. Our vision is to be a go-trusted resource and a solution organization for, again, seniors and their families.
That's good. Okay, take a quick look at the agenda, and then we're going to move on to the education moment. Every session, we have an education moment. We are, rather than a networking group, we are a resource, thank you, John, resource and solutions group, but we do networking before, after, and so on, so there's always a little education session on networking. So all business is about, and life, about building relationships. There is a hierarchy of needs that we have, and one of our major needs is that we all have a longing for a belonging. Today we're more digitally connected than ever.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we are also more disconnected personally than ever. So we need a community. You always hear about teams together, we achieve more and so on, but we need a community or a tribe, if you will. And for a long time, we focused on selling. Brian Tracy gave us the top 10 techniques to close the sale. Then we realized something. Today, we focus on providing value. And that's why we have customer satisfaction surveys and so forth. There's three things that are very important to us in building this. One is support. And we need to provide support to our teams, to our prospects, to our customers to get their goals. The second thing is encouragement. And we have to inspire them and help them to move forward. And then finally, we need to get feedback from these people, and we will get that to provide some accountability. I'm going to encourage you to read a book. It's called The Power of Community. It's written by Howard Partridge. Howard is the director of training for the Zig Ziglar Corporation. And so, you know, he's been a bestseller of many, many different books, and a personal friend of mine. It's a great book for you to learn about building that community. And now, we're going to have a few of our members introduce themselves. Dawn, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll just go around the room for a few people. And if you will stand in my position here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Dawn Bloomer. I'm a nurse. I own Interim Healthcare, Houston Southeast. It is a franchise home health agency. We're licensed and we do personal assistant services, in-home companion care, licensed home health, nursing, PT, OT. We are also have a line of business for staffing. So if there's a senior facility that uses nurses, caregivers, PT, OT, we can help with staffing. And our brand new thing that we just got this week is our contract with the VA to participate in the community care program. So we can provide caregiver services to vets under the community care program, and that has taken a couple years to accomplish. So Dawn Bloomer, Interim Healthcare.
Good morning, Stephen King, Senior Health Services. I work with seniors and their families to understand Medicare, what plans are best for them, and understand through all the myriad of different plans and different options what's going to work best for them. I really work with seniors who are already 65, but I also help those who are turning 65 by doing a Medicare 101 seminar to understand how to get into the Medicare system, how to sign up, and how to be available to have your card and ready to sign up for a plan. Stephen King, Senior Health Services. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Scott. I'm with Care Patrol of West Houston. I'm a senior living placement agent. I provide a free service to seniors and their families, helping them through that often confusing time transitioning between living at home or discharging from a hospital and finding safe, affordable living placement in their preferred area. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Christian with 101 Mobility. The purpose of 101 Mobility is to help people stay safe and independent in their home as long as possible, and that goes through accessibility and mobility solutions such as a grab bar in the bathroom, all the way to an elevator, including any type of lift, stair lift, wheelchair lift, patient lift, ceiling lift, pool lift. If it has the word lift in it, we probably do it. Ramp, bathroom remodeling, and so on. Again, Christian with 101 Mobility.
Good morning. Has there ever been a situation during your workday that either you or your employee or any of your residents needed to have a document notarized but couldn't take time off from your schedule to go to a notary office or signing a shipping center? My name is John Gorosh. I'm with Always Accurate Notary. I'm a mobile notary. I come to you. I come to your office. If you wish to meet at a coffee shop or wherever, I'll meet you at your convenience. I'm available 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So anytime that you have a document that needs to be notarized, I come to you. May it be for will signing ceremonies, power of attorneys, any sort of documents that need to be notarized if you're closing on a loan or refinancing. If it needs to be notarized, I can assist you. My name is John Gorosh with Always Accurate Notary. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Carla Bauer. I work with Family Tree Private Care, and we offer customized personal in-home care. We do all the way from companionship to caregiving to skilled nursing in the home. And what I do is care management. I help people find resources, connect with people like you all here in the Estate Concierge. I help them to coordinate medical visits, medical care, and just do the overall big picture for people to support best outcomes for our clients.
Wow, okay. Good morning. Hello, I'm Angie Galatis with Medical Advocacy Plus, and what I am is I'm an independent patient advocate, so similar to what Carla probably just spoke about. So I provide assistance to patients or clients who need help navigating through the healthcare field, whether it's dealing with their insurance, medical billing and claims, diagnostic education, treatment, medical appointments, helping families who have their loved ones that are not right there with them. I have a client right now, for example, that they live out of state, and the client is here and he needs help navigating his care because he has dementia, so he can't do it himself. And also I also incorporate some wellness into people's plan, because I think of trying to avoid chronic disease is very important to avoid things like stroke and cardiovascular disease. So thank you, and
Thank you. I'm Gail Stolzenberg, Senior Wellness Consultant. You know what's most important to most people? It's their health, or the health of their loved ones. That's what keeps people awake at night. So for 3 things that you could do today at no cost to improve the health of your seniors, contact Gail at gailstolzenberg.com. Your health is your wealth. And next I'm going to ask Barry Crispin to introduce herself, and then she is going to be our speaker for today. Barry?
thank you, Gail.
Right hand side.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Barry. I'm a funeral director at Sacred Choice Funeral Home, and we started this firm about 5 years ago, Lacey, John, and myself. And we've been blessed to still have our doors open, help families here in the Senior Estate Concierge, and this group is perfect for us. We really take an approach where the service doesn't end when the memorial is finished or the funeral is finished. We try and provide resources to them so everyone here is valued. We really appreciate everything that you do for our families, and all of the feedback that we've received, everyone's just been perfect. So thank you for everything you do. And we're going to talk about pre-arrangements today, and just a few other details, just in case you may or may not know. And anytime you have a question, please feel free to stop me. This is interactive session, okay? The first question we always get is, what do I do when the death occurs? And the answer simply is, it depends. So if the death occurs at a facility, hospital, even a home when you're in hospice care, typically those agencies will place the call on behalf of the family. However, if the death is unattended, if you're at home without hospice care, then you do have to call 911. The medical examiner is involved. They'll then come out to see if this is going to be a case they'll take into their care. If not, they'll assign an IO number, or if they decide to take into their care, it's a completely different number. So this is what their form looks like. I think a lot of people think we just show up and then bring their loved one into our care. It doesn't quite work that way. The next of kin still has to sign that form and give us permission to be able to bring their loved one into our care. The other item that a lot of people don't think about, especially right now with COVID, there wasn't a lot of traveling happening, but now that there is, that's a possibility. If it happens when you're in another country or on a cruise, whatever the case may be, there are options out there where it's travel protection plans, where it doesn't matter where you are in the world, they can bring you back to Houston or wherever home is, and for us it's Houston. But for other family members that may not be here, that's also a really good option, especially if you know that they travel a lot and they don't want to stop because they're worried about something happening. So that's also a good tip to let them know. For final dispositions, there's a lot of options. There's burial, cremation, entombment. You could do private or public viewings, and really, when you're doing a pre-arrangement, you really want to have that conversation with your family, right? What is it that I want? Not what you want, what is it that I want? And just honestly having the conversation is the very first step. You don't have to pay it. You don't have to, take that second leap. Now, is it a good thing? Absolutely, because it locks in the price. So for example, just to give you a quick scenario, we had a family, they talked about having a burial, I'm gonna say like 5 years ago. And then slowly, little by little, things go up. I mean, the concrete grave liners that cemeteries require, those go up in price. the caskets go up in price. Now we provide that at our cost. So for us, if the casket costs $800, that's what the family pays. However, other places, they're not like that. So they'll charge 3 or 4 times the cost, but once it goes up, then their numbers it exponentially also goes up. So when the time came and they were comparing to the older price list to a new one, they said, I don't know what to do, Barry. And so I gave them my opinion. It would have been better for them to obviously pay it at that time, but now we had to make a few just small changes that, they make a difference. And then finding ways to have the family be comfortable with that, because we want to honor the person's wishes, but we also want to be conscious that there's fees that need to be paid after the death occurs, and we don't want all the funds to be spent on the service. We understand there's medical bills, and just a lot of other things that don't necessarily fit within the budget for the funeral. So we're very conscious of that. I'm gonna go to cremation. A lot of our families also select cremation, not just because it's economically friendly, but there's a little bit more of, I'm trying to think of the word here. They don't have to select a service right here, right now. They have a little bit more of time to think about it. We could do a memorial service within a few weeks. And the family was able to be there when the death occurred. They had their private moment, so they don't need a private viewing or a full traditional viewing. So again, it just depends. Most of the families that choose not to have a viewing, it's honestly because, mom or dad lived 90 years old, and by the time they were 90, they didn't want people looking at them the way that they looked. They want people to remember them the way that they were. Completely understand. So we're here to support any decision you want to make and really provide you all your options, so you know what's best for you and your family. Entombment, it's one that you don't hear a lot about, but there are mausoleums in Houston and the surrounding areas that have crypts available, and that's essentially just placing the casket inside of a crypt, and you don't have to purchase an outer burial container. You're essentially purchasing the crypt and then placing the casket just right inside. The ceremony can take place. Usually there's an area in the actual mausoleum where you have a memorial service and you're still able to say your goodbyes. So I'm gonna go to the next slide. And then there's different types of cremation. So there's the simple cremation versus a traditional cremation. Again, that's a conversation for the family and what they're wanting. A simple cremation is essentially the transportation from the place of passing, refrigeration, since embalming is not required by law, and I do have to disclose that. And the cremation fee varies. So for us, an individual that is under 225 pounds is covered. And then above that, it goes up just a little bit. And then an actual cremation container, so not to be confused with the urn. Everyone has to be placed in a leak-resistant combustible box, essentially. And that's just because sometimes when we bring your loved ones into our care, there may be a blanket that you want to stay with them, or letters that the kids or grandkids have written, and you want everything to stay together and protects the person as well. So that's also included. Now, the traditional cremation is just a little different. This is for families that still want to have the service. They want the individual present at the service in the casket. They want to view an hour ahead of time. But at the very end, instead of going to the cemetery, we then go to the crematory. And then once the cremation is completed, then the family is able to make an appointment. We release the ashes in the urn or in a temporary container if they plan on scattering. So again, it just depends on what they want. And these are most of the items that are necessary for a cremation. We do help with obituaries, and I have a guideline. Even if you're with a family that has selected another funeral home, we always like to help because information is key when you're helping families. So we have a guideline that breaks things down by paragraph, and it really does help because when you're trying to write someone's life, where do you start, right? There's so much. So it really does help to have that handy. And we also have other guidelines that help you know what questions are going to be asked, whether it's us or any other funeral home. The death certificate questions are all the same. So if you have a family that is thinking about it, they don't know what they want exactly, giving them those handouts and just saying this is what's going to be asked, fill it out and just put it in a folder and put it away. That way, if the time does come, the kids aren't having to struggle with those questions, because they can be a struggle sometimes when they don't know the information. Do you have any questions on any of these items before I move forward?
Would I
Yes.
be understanding correctly then, with the traditional cremation, you would have an embalming
Correct.
and then you would do the cremation?
Correct. Yeah.
Repeat the question.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the question was, with a traditional cremation, do you have to have embalming? And the answer is yes. If the family wants to have a viewing, typically it takes place in a chapel at a church, and there is a viewing, then yes, we would have to have that to move forward. Yes.
What does the law say about scattering?
So you can scatter. I wish we weren't on camera so I could say that. I'm just kidding. But you can scatter in legal places, correct? So places that you're allowed to. Now, there are certain places that you're not. So for example, don't go to the golf course and scatter there, because they're probably not going to like that at your country club. But there are other places. I've had families that go out into like a specific hike that they all went on, and that's where they want to do it. Or they want to scatter at a specific bridge, or there's just so many places. It's
Okay. In other words, it's totally okay to scatter, except in certain areas when it's not.
Absolutely, it's okay to scatter
That's
except
fine.
in certain
Thank you.
areas. Now, if you're transporting ashes like to another country, we always like to ask. Most families don't come forward with that information, but we always ask, because sometimes you do need permits to, go to another country. And I think they're thinking, I'll just put them in my carry-on and all will be well. Well, they're still going to scan your carry-on, so you want to disclose what's happening, what's going on, because you don't want people to think you're just carrying something in your bag. So just for you.
So what is it? In other words, what do you do if they tell you, okay, I'm planning
on traveling? So
traveling.
we look up the country. Every country is different. There are some that only require a burial transit permit, a death certificate, and that's it. And we can provide both of those. There are others that require the consulate to be involved, and they have to provide translations, additional permits, additional stamps. So it just depends on the country, and who. Like, for example, we just had a family that wanted to go to Italy, and that's a little bit more complicated. It's 10 different documents, all translated. The Department of Diseases has to be involved, make sure COVID wasn't involved, and there's no non-contagious diseases. It's a little bit more involved, so it depends on the country.
Do you think that the virus survives the cremation?
No, no, sir. I can go on record for that.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I know, right? Okay, I'm gonna go to the next slide. Burial. So we work with a lot of families that already have cemetery property, which is fantastic, and then we just help them with the burial options and pre-arranging those. When we pre-arrange, they might not know all of the items that they want. I always say, you can always add the items, and at the end, if they're not used, you get your refund back, or it can be applied to something else that they didn't think of at the time of need. Hi there. Things to consider when you're pre-arranging or even having a service. We always like to personalize things, so even small things like the person's lipstick or their own perfume, those make a difference. How are you? And then, of course, if you could provide a recent photograph, that again always helps us too. Sometimes we'll get pictures that are a little bit, they don't look like the person. We're trying really hard to match those. And then the last one is cemetery property. Again, if you own cemetery property, fantastic. If you don't, then we can help you by calling cemeteries in the local or surrounding areas to see what their numbers are so you can have a better idea when comparing. And there are other families that we've either served in the past or will be serving that own cemetery property that no longer need it. So we've had families that have property in like other cities, and then we keep that in mind. And I mean, it's so interesting how things just happen. Then we have another family come in and say, well, we're not going to bury here, we're going to bury there. And I think, oh, well, I have a family that owns this property. And then we just put them together and they take care of it themselves. Or if they want us to be a part of it, we can do that too. So that's a good thing to know. And it also helps you if you have a client family that needs it or doesn't need it, we're able to help either way. And I think the only item on here we already talked about is outer burial container. That is the first container that is needed for most cemeteries. It's a concrete liner. And then after that, it goes up depending on the really the materials that are used. So a concrete liner is essentially a concrete box. It goes in the ground, casket goes inside, and it's then covered. The step right above has an additional layer inside that is coated to allow natural elements to not go in. Can they tell you that it's 100% waterproof? Absolutely not. It's just, it's an additional item for protection. Go ahead, Gail.
You mentioned that the cremation is a little less expensive than
Yes.
burial. Can you give us a range of costs for both, and maybe what's the most expensive one you did?
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we have our simple cremation starts at $995, and then on top of that, the only items to really consider adding is the number of death certificates. So in the state of Texas, the first one is $20, and each additional is $3. And you'll need them for anything that's really tied to your name. So vehicles, properties, bank accounts, credit cards. I mean, anything that you would technically use your signature on, I would get a copy. So if you think you need 3, get 5. If you think you need 5, get 10 to be on the safe side.
Yeah, I've done this multiple times.
Yeah.
So I would say
Carla will tell you.
get 12 or more. They only cost $3, and if you have too many, it's not a problem to you. But if you don't have enough, it's a problem.
Exactly.
You don't have it when you need it. It's crazy not to get lots of death certificates, and you should help people know that, because you don't know when you're going to be asked for it, and they take them and they keep them in their file. They don't give them back to you. So
Yeah, and if for some reason you run out and you need more, give us like a week in advance. Don't tell us I have court tomorrow and I need one. Then we're kind of in a little bit of a bind. But we are able to help you get more. So that's where the simple cremation starts. Then it goes to your traditional cremations and your burials, which range anywhere from 6,000 to 7,000, 8,000. It really depends on the casket and outer burial container that you choose. Those are the items that change in price. Everything else stays the same. And the most expensive, oh my goodness, I'm gonna say probably above 100,000 when I used to work at another funeral home. But there was a lot of stuff added in there. It was, yeah.
just for the funeral?
Just for the funeral. It was different. It's a completely different place. But for some families, I feel, when the funds are not an option, or really not a barrier, you can add as many things as you need, which, that's how you honor your loved ones, and we totally want to respect that too. Mm-hmm. And then back to ashes. Some people say, well, I don't know if I want to keep the ashes at home. Well, you don't have to keep them at home. If you want to for a period of time, we support that. But there are other places like cemeteries. Even your churches might have a columbarium area where you can select your niche ahead of time. You know that it's paid for, and when the death does occur, your ashes will be placed. And when you're pre-arranging, we want to know, these little details, because we don't want to sell or provide an urn that's not going to fit in the niche. And then you're kind of like, oh, well, what do I do now? We'll still be able to help you, but it's good to have the details ahead of time. And if you don't know this part yet, we always confirm with the family before we order anything. So if niches were purchased, wherever it is, whether it's at a cemetery or a church, we confirm again, or a synagogue, we confirm that the dimensions are correct, the urn is going to fit, and you're still okay with that decision. Because things do change, believe it or not. And then cremation jewelry. It's not, some people are okay with it, they want to do it, and others are kind of like, I don't know, that's something that I want to do. So the catalog that we send out to our families has a lot of options. It can be ashes, it can be fingerprints, it can be small keepsakes. I mean, there's so many options now. So we help narrow that down because it can be overwhelming if you get a 100-page catalog and you're just kind of flipping through it. So we try to talk to the family, see what they're wanting, what they're expecting, their family members to also receive, and then narrow it down for them.
I have a question.
Yes.
My daughter has said when I die,
Mm-hmm.
she wants to turn me into a diamond.
Yes.
So is that something,
Mm-hmm.
and is that, how expensive is that, do you know?
Yeah, so it's possible. I actually went to, this is very exciting, we had a National Funeral Directors Association convention.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and there's a lot of vendors there, and one of their vendors was, interesting enough, here in Houston. And you send them the ashes they created into a diamond. And I can't quote their numbers, but I have their handout, so I'll make sure to send it over to you. It's a little bit on the higher side, depending on, the size, but maybe she can start saving up for it now. And that way when the time comes, not anytime soon.
Right.
Not anytime soon, she'll be ready. But it does depend on the size. Okay. And additional items to consider. We do notify Social Security, who then notifies Medicare, and we try to make those reports as soon as possible because we don't want anyone using those numbers and, fraudulent things happen, and so we just want to make sure as soon as we get the information, those go out, and the family knows as well. Now, if there's a surviving spouse, we usually recommend wait till the death certificate comes in, make the appointment if you can ahead of time, so that you can go in and then they can talk about how to make those changes in that profile. You can try over the phone, but the hold times, I'm sure as you know, are 3 to 4 hours on a good day.
If you can even get through it.
So we do that for you. And for the veterans that we do serve, there are certain benefits that they do qualify for, and it's a simple form to fill out. But I think with just like a lot of things, if there's a form and you have to fill it out, you're like, do I really want to do this? So we help them with that, and they do receive a free space at the Houston National Cemetery, along with a container that they don't have to pay for. It's something that the government provides for their service, and we help with those documents as well. So if you are serving veteran families that need help, we're here as a resource. And they don't necessarily have to use us, but I always tell families, whether you use us or not, we want you to be taken care of. We give them our cell phone number, especially when they're price shopping. You want to make sure that, they know they have an ally on their side and not someone trying to take advantage of them. So, and then we talked about the cemetery property that people no longer need. Going to be come across a family that doesn't need their property anymore. We have families that need it sometimes within the next 3 days. And then monuments. We don't sell monuments ourselves, but we know companies that do. And so if there is a family that needs one, we'd be happy to send those names and numbers out to them, and then they can discuss within the family which one they prefer. That is Barry with Sacred Choice. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
Does the person have to use you for all of their services, or could
No.
they come to you for just part, like they want help with this or want help with that? Can they do that?
So yes and no. So when it comes to the actual disposition, if it's burial or cremation, then yes, we do have to do those services because we're the ones that are filing for the death certificate. The permits will come under our name. We'll have to use, for that specific thing. Now, if a family chooses to have the cremation elsewhere, but still needs to plan a service, then we can help them with that, because at that point, the documentation is taken care of, and we can help them. I mean, there's families that don't necessarily want a funeral or memorial service. They want a party. They want a celebration. And we work with a lot of venues like Briar Oaks, and a lot of different country clubs in Houston and the surrounding area. And we're able to kind of put them together, We create the videos, the memorial videos, bring the guest books, and they really just, I mean, they have a celebration, and if that's what they want, we want to help them. We have people that want outdoor celebrations, butterfly releases, everything and anything you can think of, we do it. We try our absolute best not to say no. Even if it's a little crazy, we just want to make sure it's legal, and it's okay. We're here to help, like I said. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, and this may be kind of off the wall a
No.
bit, but people are becoming more eco-conscious and things like that these days. And I'm sure the question will come sooner or later. When were they have you turn into a tree? Where they have, I mean, is that something that's really out there? Or is that available in the Houston area?
Let me backtrack a little bit. With cremation, you can do that. Our catalog it's called a pod. It's a contraption about this big. You place the ashes inside. They look at the region you're in, and they try to give you the seed, obviously, that is going to grow here in Texas, not something that's growing in Hawaii.
Right.
So that is available. Now, if you're talking about the one where your entire body is essentially in a pod and you're kind of in the ground, there are specific pods that aren't, I'm going to say, legal yet, but there are green cemeteries here in Houston. I know of one cemetery that doesn't require a concrete liner. You can essentially go into the earth in a all wood casket, and that is going to decompose. So that's an option, but really it's the concrete liner, and most cemeteries want that because it does level the ground so that years after there aren't little
dips.
Yeah, exactly. So if that's something that you're interested in, I'm happy to provide that cemetery, and you can call them and discuss that with them and see what they say.
Just even knowing it's available, because people do ask
absolutely.
about.
And even donation to the UT medical schools. We have families that say, I want to be donated, but I don't know where to start. Very simple. You fill out an application, you send it in. You do have to be, what I'm going to say, pre-qualified before the death occurs, because usually after the death occurs, they won't take you in. The families that we've served, we've helped them fill out the application. When the death occurs, the next of kin or the person that was in charge gave us a call. We just called the department and told them, hey, this was sent on this day by this person. We just want to make sure everything's still okay, everything is in place, and they'll go into their roster and say, yeah, we're all okay. So then we just transport, or they actually provide their own transportation, and it's taken care of. So that's another option that a family is thinking of. Just let them know it's very simple. It's not complicated. I think a lot of people, if they see a little bit of a pushback, or if there's paperwork, or there's anything, they kind of shy away from it, but know that you have a resource, and I'm here to help them fill out anything that they need to fill out. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Gail, thank you.
Let's give Mary a
Thank you.
very, very informative. So, those of you that are visitors, if you will go to seniorestateconcierge.com, it will give all of you the information about becoming a member of this august assembly here. There are 4 chapters in the Houston area, just kind of scattered around the city, and then in addition to that, each month we do a all chapter meeting, and that I think is on the 4th Thursday, but I will send you the information on that so that you can attend maybe some of the other chapters, whatever is most convenient for you. And some people actually become members of all of the chapters because they have business all over Houston. So let's talk a little bit about upcoming events. I'll start with an apology.
Sorry about that.
This event is limited by sex. It's a men only event, and I apologize, except that it's one of the most fantastic events. It's actually a faith-based, it's called the Toolbox Ministries, but there's 150, I've seen as many as 200 people in this event. And so it's one that most men would be interested in, and women can pass it on to men. Now, another event, which will be tomorrow, is one that would be something that everybody will be interested in, because it's really about way to increase your sales, and it has to do with what we're doing right now, having events and making presentations. Tracy James is an expert in that arena, and there's no cost to attend the event. And then next month, we've got a special speaker. It is Lori Ferris. And I have to tell you, Lori was scheduled to speak today. She called me a day ago and said, I've just come down with COVID, and you may not want me to be the speaker. So I want to thank Barry again for jumping in and taking that position. Any questions about Senior Estate Concierge? Okay, then I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Catherine, it's your turn again, if you would. Please rise. And put your forefinger on that button.
Oh.
We'll see you next time.